Well, next on Sky World News, the escalating fighting in eastern Ukraine. And at least 40 people are reported killed, with some of the worst fighting concentrated around the government-held town of Debaltseve, northeast of the rebel-held stronghold of Donetsk. Now, officials from Ukraine, Russia and the rebel forces met for talks in Minsk in Belarus on Saturday, but left without agreement after a 9-month conflict, which has so far cost more than 5,000 lives. Well, Grigory Zygalov is a journalist with 1+1 TV, a Ukrainian language channel. You've just returned from the failed truce talks in Minsk, Grigory. What did you come away with? I mean, what happens now?
Well, briefly about the situation to understand why talks in Minsk ended with no result. Now intense fighting continues along the entire length of so-called demarcation line. I received reports from people on the front line this night that separatists launched unceasing attack on Ukrainian positions. The most dangerous developments are around the town of Debaltsevo. There is a kind of salient there, and pro-Russian forces try to encircle Ukrainian units, and they spare no effort. Just the same what's happening during the peace talks this Saturday. The representatives of the separatists were demanding unilateral ceasefire from Ukraine side in Minsk, and separatist forces were continuing the assault in eastern Ukraine. So from the very beginning, it was clear that there were little chances for success in these peace talks. And if to speak why Minsk talks ended with no agreement, we should remember what Moscow wants in this situation. It seems like Putin's plan is not peace in Ukraine, but the further escalation of the conflict. And the reason is simple. Probably Russia hopes that it will succeed in exhausting Ukraine quicker than economic sanctions will exhaust Russian economy. So these talks could be just an attempt to play for time with no intention to receive progress in peace process.
So does this mean then that the rebels are growing in strength, too strong, in fact, for Ukraine to defeat?
Let's make it clear when we say rebel forces, at first we mean the units of regular Russian army, then bands of mercenaries from all parts of Russian Federation, and only after that local residents who were trained, equipped and armed by Russian side. These forces are really strong. They use modern and sophisticated weapons. They receive regular replenishment of fuel and ammunition and weaponry through the border with Russia that is not controlled by Ukraine. We can compare it with Hydra, a monster with many heads. Cut off one head, two more shall take its place. And according to reports we receive from the frontline separatist forces, just don't count losses and spare no effort in trying to break through the defenses of Ukrainian position. What considers Ukrainian army, it is much stronger now than half a year ago, but Ukraine does not have so many resources as Russia has. And at this moment, a new wave of mobilization is announced, but it takes time to train and equip new units.
So it must be good news then that America is considering helping out Ukraine. US Secretary of State Kerry is going to Kiev this week. How significant would that be? That would upset Mr. Putin, wouldn't it?
Really, it seems like President Obama's administration is taking a new look at providing Ukrainian forces with defensive weapons and equipment. That is what the New York Times report, quoting U.S. officials. Obama voiced concern last week about renewed fighting between Russian-backed separatists and government forces in eastern Ukraine, and said the United States was considering all options short of military actions to isolate Russia. And that is what Ukraine was desperately asking for during the months of this offensive. Here in Ukraine, everyone waits for Kerry's visit to Ukraine that is planned on Saturday. Talks with President Petro Poroshenko and other Ukrainian officials are in the schedule, and many here hope that Kyiv will receive new help and new support.
Grigory Zygalov, as ever, thank you very much.